welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen. With me today are Louis D'Souza and Anne-Marie Young. This is your Daily Dose of Happy. We are so happy you decided to join us today. And if you've been having a little difficulty accessing the podcast in the last 24 hours, that's understandable because I broke the website. I really did. I didn't intend to. It wasn't intentional. I was just doing some basic normal updates, and all of a sudden the back end of the, I use WordPress for the website. The back end just went kablooey, and I went through all the usual steps that I know. I know quite a few for fixing it, and none of the usual steps worked. And so I tried to do recovery, and the recovery broke the front end. So it's been an interesting time, but I'm now in the process. Over the last 16, 17 hours, something like that, I have been uploading a backup that I have so that the server can turn that into an older version of the website. And then I have to load in all the content since then. So probably sometime later on tonight, everything will be back to normal. And by the time you hear this, it will already be back to normal because most of you can't even get the episodes right now because the website's broken. But that's all right. It'll all be fixed very, very soon. But that kind of gives you an idea of how my last few days have gone. Not the greatest in the world. But that's how I'm doing. Louis, you've been through, you actually got COVID, which is an interesting thing. First of all, we're happy that you're in great shape. You're doing very well. But it's interesting because you'd actually alluded to, how you couldn't get it and you finally got it, but how you got it's kind of weird because you didn't know you had it, right? Whoops. No microphone. Your microphone is not working.
Sorry.
That's better.
I decided I was going to a meeting, so, they suggested that we check ourselves before we go to it. So I did. And then I found out I had COVID. About the only symptom I had was I just needed to sleep a lot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I was very, very, very aware if there was anything to do with chest, because I've had asthma and I understand chest related ailments, and I couldn't perceive any at all from corona, which was interesting. It was just something I was very focused on.
But you're feeling
not much
now?
To say, really.
But you're feeling better. Not that you were feeling bad, but you're feeling well, I guess I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I was aware that I had something that I didn't know I had, and then I didn't have it anymore. Yeah.
Which is good. That's great news.
And that was like me. I just tested myself routinely because we were going around a friend's house and the little extra line popped up and I was a bit, oh, where did you come from? And I did get poorly as the week went on. But like you, I'm asthmatic, not to the extreme that you were as a child, but I was a bit worried about the whole chest thing, but it fortunately didn't hit that area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you would know if it does. We understand that. But the thing that I was impressed with was the test kits because they were very, very accurate. They showed you when you were starting, when you were full blown, when you were less, and then I sent away for the proper one, and then they tested me positive as well. So it was all in conjunction. Everything was synchronized and everything was working correctly, and which is not something I was actually expecting, the level of accuracy from these little tests that you do at home, but it looks like they've got it spot on, really have, at least in the UK. So I was very, very impressed with that.
Okay.
Give them the thumbs up when it comes to the test kits.
All right. Very good. I have to admit, I've never been tested for it. So given your experience, now I'm wondering, maybe did I have it at some point and not know it? It's certainly possible.
It's very likely. Very likely.
Yeah. And we don't want
to
get
I
into too much
specifically
of that,
registered for it because you don't have to have the vaccine for 6 months, if you ever wanted to have the vaccine. So you've now got your natural immunity, which they give you 6 months for. So I kind of like the idea.
Oh, I see. So this must be a thing in the UK because it's not something I recognize for the US.
Yeah, must be.
So basically, once you've tested positive and then tested negative, you're good to go. You're considered good to go. You can go anywhere that vaccinated people can go and that sort of thing.
That's correct.
Got it. Okay.
Mind you, we're not finding that in our school. I don't know if it's just because it's a different variant, but so many people are coming down with it for the second time within a few months.
Oh, you mean they've got COVID and they've got COVID again? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I don't know if it's COVID and then the variant, or, it's very difficult to tell because as far as I understand, the tests check for both. They can't differentiate between the two. What's it?
Omicron.
Yeah, that thing.
The fourth variant. Yeah, the 4 variants so far: Alpha, Beta, Gamma, Omicron.
Because we went to the Rotary meeting and 10 of us landed up with the virus. Just one meeting.
Wow.
So I've realized a few things. One is the whatever version we had was very virulent. And the other thing is the test kits are very accurate. Extremely.
Well, that's a good thing. That's a very good thing.
It's nice to officially know that I've had it. I like the idea.
Why is that?
First of all, just to see how it handle it. I was always curious if it would have, because of my asthma in the past and all the rest of it, if I would have any ill effects on my chest side. But again, I've been out of that for so many years that I doubted very much it would, but I was still curious. And the other side is just the recognition of the natural vaccine, the natural antibodies from getting the virus. I like that idea too.
All right. Very good. I am curious to know, we don't want to spend the whole show on having COVID and all that kind of stuff. But I'm curious to know what role, I know there's a role here. Let me phrase that differently. To what extent do you believe that your vibration, and Anne-Marie, this is true for you too, because you went through it as well. To what extent do you believe that your vibration impacted the degree of severity or non-severity of the illness that you experienced?
I'd like to say a lot, but if the virus attacks somewhere where you're vulnerable, even though on average you're very high, it can still take you to the cleaners. So I've learned that even though I'm often very, very well and really, really healthy, that things can still slip in and really take you out. So, to me, it's more important that I'm able to heal myself quickly or relatively quickly, depending on the severity, rather than worrying about the severity or getting anything. It's more to me being able to deal with it once I've got it.
Okay.
And for me, I pretty much knew I was going to get it. Because I'd always been saying, as long as I don't have it for Christmas, I don't mind. As long as I don't have it for Christmas. So I kind of knew that I was going to get it after Christmas. And actually, for me, I'm quite grateful for it because it's weird. Because even though I didn't feel very well at all, my body hurt, just sitting in front of a computer screen made me feel really nauseous and really dizzy. So I was under the impression that my body needed a break. I was busy over Christmas. My body needed to stop. And this was that stop point. And I got that week of doing nothing because I couldn't. So it's not like I felt ill and could sit at the computer and still work. I couldn't even do that. I had to stop. So for me, I kind of wished it in the way I was going, as long as I have it after Christmas. And yeah, my body was going, you need a break.
Sort of a forced separation from work is what it is.
Yeah, just literally, I needed to stop, and this is the one way that I could do it.
Okay. Any last minute takeaways before we move on?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Well, in addition to the issue that I already mentioned about the website, the LOA Today website, and the LOA Today podcast episodes, which have not been going out in the last 24 hours or so. Because of that, I also got held up in terms of putting together the recordings for the summit. What I can tell you is I've got the first day's worth of recordings edited, and they're not, I can't say they're in the can, so to speak, but they're made, and I basically have to go through and just play them, make sure everything is good, and then I'll be publishing them. Well, I was hoping to publish them today. I'm hoping I can publish them tomorrow, assuming I can get the website fixed. But I just wanted to keep people up to date who have been waiting for those recordings. They are coming, just a little more delayed than they were before. But just be patient with me, and we are going to get it out as soon as we possibly can. And of course, we still have one workshop left. It was supposed to happen this past Thursday. It got postponed to this coming Thursday. So that's the Kelly Coulter workshop. So we'll be sending out an email about that as well. So there we go. That's all the announcements. The only announcement left is there are no more announcements. That's it. Okay, we're done. So as you can imagine, my weekend was a bit stressful because of all that. One of the things that I did do over the weekend, I actually signed up for a couple of courses put out by people who were presenters at the summit, and I've been starting to dig into those. That's been kind of interesting. And part of my motivation for doing it was because I was being thrown all these curveballs and getting knocked off my feet in terms of what I was trying to do. I figured, well, let's start doing some of these things so that I can get back in alignment, back on balance, and so forth. And I've only just barely touched each of them. The ones that I took were the Kickstart program that Dan Mangano offers, and I also signed up for Disha Wadup's course on how she teaches people how to build and monetize their Facebook groups. And just the act of, interestingly enough, just the act of signing up for those courses and like doing the first video or two, it was a great way to get back into alignment. I didn't really expect that. I thought it was just, that's something that you do when you're taking a course and you just kind of take the course. But it actually was such a nice distraction. It got me back into alignment, which was pretty cool. So it just goes to show there are lots of different ways to get back into alignment. I like that.
Did you feel like you were taking some of that power back?
Oh, yeah, definitely. They talk about mindfulness.
And who did you sell it to?
I haven't figured that one out yet. I'm still trying to decide. Yeah. I don't know who I sold. I'm not even sure I sold it. I probably gave it away knowing me. Yeah, here, take it. I don't need the alignment. Go ahead, take it for a while. Yeah. That's my usual pattern.
I just wanted to say hi to Luke and Sam. Good
guys.
Good to see you online.
Yeah. Nice to see both of you. But yeah, it's been an interesting few days. I'm looking forward to a new and refreshing month. Now that we're at the end of January, I'm thinking of February as being a refreshing new start, so to speak. So that's where I am vibrationally and emotionally and all that kind of stuff. So you guys had, I know, Louis, you had a symptom-free weekend. And Anne-Marie, we've been doing a little chatting, but I don't really know much about what you guys are doing. But anything interesting, fun, exciting, scary, wonderful, terrifying happening?
No, my life's not that exciting. No, we've got a little friend staying. We're dog sitting this week, so I've had lots of lovely walks with the dog. And it's amazing when you've got a dog, how many people interact with you.
Oh yeah.
And just smiles, little chats. Mm-hmm. And how friendly little dogs are. And, that was quite lovely, just have that whole observation of a different world. But a very friendly and cute one.
That's good, though. That's nice.
I remember Anne-Marie, when I was a student, there was this girl who had this lovely dog, and I was quite good friends with her. And she kept on saying to me, "Oh, I wish people would pay me as much attention as I do my dog."
Jealous of the dog.
It's true.
Of course, there are other people who use the dog as the way to get the attention. You get the attention for the dog, and all of a sudden now you're getting the attention vicariously. So I guess it depends on how you look at it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Now, do you also find that you're interacting with other dog walkers?
Yeah, absolutely. That it's like because the dogs stop and
right.
sniff other parts of their bodies, which is quite bizarre. I'm glad humans don't do that. I'm glad that's not a human greeting. But yeah, you just have little chats, and you get the people who just you begin to see the same faces as well, and it's really friendly. It's really sweet. It's a bit like when you have babies and all the old people stop and have a look at the baby. Mm-hmm, it's a bit like that.
Do you have a dog park that you took it to? I don't know if you have anything like that near you, but I'm just curious.
No, we just literally we've got lots of little walks around here. It's like lots of little kind of cycle paths, and we just go around there. Mm-hmm. And take the kids with their roller skates and stuff.
Yeah, I don't know how big those are in the UK. In the US, they're pretty big, and you just walk by wherever there's one of these dog parks, and you can see all the owners. They're all kind of chatting around the fence, and the dogs are just running all over the place inside, having a great time.
But, we don't have them here. Do they have those near you, Louis?
What were these?
Dog parks.
We've got the Foxley Woods, which is for the foxes, but it's mostly dogs there.
Oh, okay.
So we've got quite a few parks and forests around here, which are very dog friendly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I guess they're a thing here in the United States. They're designated spaces where dogs and their dog owners can come and mingle, and the dogs just all get to interact off leash, so to speak, because it's in a confined area.
Yeah.
And they just love it. You can just tell the dogs are having a great time. They even have little playgrounds for some of them. It's great.
But it's so nice to be around an animal, and that there's no judgment from an animal, is there? They're just beautiful things, and you can just tell.
Maybe from dogs, I'm not so sure about cats.
Oh yeah, yeah, I had a particularly vicious cat once. Yeah.
Well, no, this guy next to me, actually this lady next to me would possibly disagree. She's looking for a lot of attention right now, but nevertheless, she would possibly disagree with that. It's unusual for her to be sniffing at me while I'm doing the show, but all of a sudden she's wanting a whole bunch of attention.
That's because you're talking about another pet. She's not happy.
This is true. Well, you know her then. Because that's exactly how she is. Yeah. Well, 2 cats in the house, and if I'm giving any attention to the other cat, that's not a good thing. You can just her face is like in a permanent pout whenever I'm giving attention to the other cat. Yeah. You can see it. No, they're fun. And you're right, they are the ultimate givers of love, the ultimate approvers.
They are.
They're well, it's one of my items on my list. I have a list of things that I go to if I can't remember what I can do to get myself into a better feeling place. One of the items on the list, play with and pet the cats. And it's actually, it's number 5 on the list because it's near the top because it's one of the better ones. It works pretty well. So I like that one.
We've been doing some renovation in the house. So a lot of painting and a lot of taping. There's so much prep to painting. Painting takes seconds. The prep. Oh my God.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the inconvenience is temporary. The improvements are permanent.
This is true. And you get really good with the marker tape. So sure.
You do. Mm-hmm. The other thing I've been doing is getting more into the soil. And there's a group I've joined. It's called Conscious Planet. And they're doing training at the moment to teach you how to talk to other people about the soil. And just on the video conference call I was on, there was over 700 people.
Wow.
And they focused on March the 1st, starting a tour all around many of the countries. And I think they've got 190 countries looking into it. And it's all about getting a governmental policy change at the end of it. So they're looking at billions of people, at least 3 billion people exposed to it. and signed up in some way or another, to get the momentum necessary to get, policy change. Now the policy change is like a 1% policy change. So it's a very small one that they're aiming for, but getting it in 190 countries around the world. And 6 of them are already very actively involved already before we've even started. So it's just really interesting. It's just a really great bunch of people and really focused on sharing, soil desertification.
3 billion, that's a significant number. I mean, there are 8 billion people on the planet. That's 3/8 of the planet. That's huge.
Yep. And the individual that's running it has had 125 million people in India already. Got a policy change there for the farmers, etc. So, very, very focused and clear individual who's running it all.
What kind of policy changes are they looking for too? I'm curious. What's you said that they're going for?
That's still being clarified. I think it's going to be different in different countries. Slightly different. But the bottom line is, doing something like saying, to the farmers, because it's an agricultural issue, 99% of it. We will give you money depending on the quality of your soil. So the more soil it is and the less sand it is, then you'll get reimbursed for that. So instead of all the different ways that farmers are reimbursed, they're now going to be reimbursed and really focusing on enhancing the soil, not tilling the soil, not exposing it to the elements. And the farmers are doing many things at the moment. You know, even the big farmers with their combine harvesters, etc. So what they're doing is they're cutting down the top, and they're getting all the wheat and stuff, and then they've just got this mulch at the back end of that, and immediately after it they're planting a ground crop over it. Like literally while they're cutting the thing down, there's another machine going there planting the ground cover in this mulch without tilling it at all. So they're not doing any tilling anymore, which means they need less fertilizer, because the ground cover they're putting in is now putting nitrates and things back into the ground. So there's a lot of different ways. I mean, there's the organic farmer, and there's this farmer, and there's that farmer, and they're all doing things slightly differently, but they're all learning from the eco-friendly groups out there and all the information that they've gathered and put out. So they're taking what they can and putting it into place in their farms to the best of their abilities. So it's really interesting to watch each of them doing a little bit in their own way in their own time. But yeah.
Interesting that they're trying to get the governments to incentivize. And I say that because they're talking about having 3/8 of the planet involved in supporting this to one degree or another. I'm thinking, what happens if they use the $3 billion to crowdfund? I mean,
it's 3 billion people. There's no money. Oh, okay. Yeah.
I'm just saying, if you have 3 billion people giving something, you got a bunch of money that you can use to incentivize. You can skip the government and just go right.
They're not necessarily looking for any money. They're just looking to raise awareness. There's been no mention of that.
Well, they're trying to get the governments. They're trying to get various governments to do things. They're trying to get the governments to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, all I'm thinking is, just because governments, I know something about governments because I studied them for years. Governments can be pretty hard to move sometimes. You probably actually would spend less money just incentivizing directly than trying to get the governments to do something, even with 3 billion people behind you. But that's just my observation. I don't know.
You know, there's going to be many different ways this is going to spill out. There's educational groups, there are farming groups, there are nutritional groups, you know, so there's the whole group, which is just say 700 in our small group, of teachers. And they give you videos, they give you, pamphlets, they give you things to put on Facebook, they give you, they cover all the bases. So there's very little you have to do besides repost and train a little bit on how to sell soil awareness, which is, for me, obviously not difficult. But they give people a script. So, if they want to do it that way or go to a school and whatever, or somebody wants to see what you're talking about, you can give them some information and then, massage it out to however works best with your knowledge and your character. So, I'll be doing it to Rotary. I'll be going, giving them a talk on soil and, all the rest of it. So there's, I don't know, it's just really interesting. I think the awareness that an origin 1930, you now need 8 of those to get the same level of nutritional value today.
So are they going in with small changes, knowing that that'll have a big impact, and then they can grab the interest?
Once
to
the
make more
awareness
change?
is there, you can now ride on that, because they are not pushing against big pharma. They're not pushing against all the stuff that they put on the fields, from poisons to food. But once you start understanding the whole thing, it's really complicated. You have to understand the whole farming policy of all the different countries. And, during the war, there was a lot of, Second World War, there was a lot of need for extra food. So they encouraged the farmers very drastically to farm every little inch of their land. And then afterwards there was this huge excess, and then they didn't know what to do with the excess. And then they started feeding this corn to the cows, which actually damaged them. But they had so much of it, they could only sell so much and store so much, and then they had to use the rest. So, and then you start realizing how damaging that is for the cows and chickens, etc., and the pigs, when they're feeding them all this corn. Your corn fed is one of the things that they put up, but it's actually very bad for the animals when you start digging into it. And then, the the whole implication of the whole cycle of this agriculture is really scary when you start going into it. It is devastating to our planet. And what you realize all it's doing is it's taking the natural way the planet has lived for billions of years or millions of years, or however you want to look at it. And now suddenly in the last 70 to 100 years, it's massively changed it. And it's ripped all these natural, animals, predators, grazers, the predators used to keep the grazers down, and the grazers, used to feed the hunters. And so you had this whole dynamic going on, which of course we've all got farmlands now. It's all farmed. So it's all bordered, and, the animals can't roam anymore. And that whole natural biodiversity has just been destroyed on so many different levels. And then there's this long-term impact which is coming in. And, if we do something about it now, we're going to, and I'm not one to jump on a bandwagon, you know me. But if we do something about it now, I think it'll be a lot easier to help move forward than if we do it in, say, 30 or 40 years' time.
Yeah, you're more likely to jump into a sauna than onto a bandwagon. We know that for sure.
So, I'm really finding it interesting, because there's also a lot I didn't know. That book that I was talking about, I've now fully read it. The one about the vegetarian myth.
Yeah.
And my gosh, the level of information this lady's got is unbelievable. How she puts the pieces of the puzzle together in a way I've never seen any book or any person do. But it must have taken her years to put this pieces. 20 years as a vegetarian and a focus and understanding. It's been an eye-opener for me. I think everybody on the planet should read that book. But then, Body Many Cries for Water, they should read. Illusions, they should read. There are a few of them, but this is now another one of them that they should read, because it really helps you understand what is the cycle of life on this planet and how it works. It's really, really interesting.
One of the things that I have found to be challenging about many movements that people try to create is the heavy emphasis that they almost always have. I won't say 100%, but 99.9% of them have a very heavy emphasis on here's what's wrong. Here's what we don't like. Here's all the things that have to change because they're so bad and so forth. And every time I see or hear about one of these movements that are being created, the thought that goes through my mind is, I wonder if this one is actually going to buck the trend and decide to start focusing on this is what we want instead. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious, are they focusing on this is what they want instead?
Absolutely. As I say, they're not pushing against the drug companies. They're not pushing against anything. They're bringing a short videos in about the level of awareness of where the problem is. And then they're going on and on and on about solutions. And they're really hammering that aspect. So, in the beginning, you need to make people aware of where the problem is. So there is an aspect and there is time spent on that. I wouldn't say it's less than 17 seconds. I wish it was. But it does need a little bit of explanation. And it is a relatively complex issue. Depends how deeply you want to go into it. It's actually a very complex issue. But you can talk about it on a very, very general level quite easily and quite simply. What's the one thing I like saying to anybody is, do you know what the difference between soil and sand is? Mm-hmm. That's how I start my conversation.
Can you give us a teaser about what some of those solutions are? Like, what are they proposing that can be done?
There's just so many things, Wald. One is, it's complicated because you can't separate water from the whole thing. So once you have improved the soil has got better plants and trees, then you get better rainfall and you get better water. So it's one of the solutions is just planting trees. Another one, as I've mentioned to you before, is just dig it, the project, which is just digging room size trenches in drought-stricken areas, which collect the water, allow the seeds to grow, and you get a far quicker uptake of grass, etc. So there's a just dig it method. There's taking a tree in the bushveld and cutting away the lower branches and tying it together so that you're forcing it to go up a little quicker and easier is in a tremendous way of bringing more shade so that you can get more growth underneath it and etc. So, again, non-tilling, which is the biggie for farmers, biggie. So you've now got machines that go out there and it'll go through any covering, just stick in a seed along the way without having to till the ground to be able to plant the seeds, etc. So now you're just sticking a seed in where you've got all these new machines that are doing these non-till method of farming. So biodiversity is bringing more and more different plants together on the same field, which is hugely beneficial because the one leeches off the other, and they now understand them, which one is beneficial next to the next one. So you've got this whole dynamic going on about biodiversity, but a farmer can't put a combine harvester through where you've got apples, pears, peaches, grapes, and corn all in the same place. So you now have to do something completely different, but you get more crops more often because you've got the biodiversity aspect. You've got the more different plant structures. So you're getting money in at different times of the month where you wouldn't have expected it normally out of the old method. So, and also the big thing about biodiversity is it improves the soil massively and rather quickly. So you've got that as well. So there's so many dimensions. And when you've got better ground cover, you've got better absorption of water. When you get longer roots. When you've got longer roots coming, then you're getting the water to go into the ground and not run off into the streams, etc. So then more plant can grow, and then you got more biodiversity, and then you've got more organic matter in your soil, which is what it's all really about, is to get more organic matter in your soil.
So the videos that you made reference to, I'm going to take a guess and hopefully be correct that in my inference that these videos include case studies. Like, here's an example of somebody who had situation X. Here's what the soil was like. Here's what was going on with the water and so forth. And he started doing this, and over the course of a 10-month period, X, Y, and Z happened. I mean, I'm hoping that's
there are hundreds of those, and they're long documentaries, and they need to be explain all the implications of what it was like before and how it progressed and how they did it, etc. But these ones are more about making people aware of where the problem is and what it kind of looks like and what the possible solutions is by joining a group, getting a policy change in a government, because the way the individual who's running this, he's very clear that you need to get the governments involved and not circumvent them or fight them or push around them or whatever. You need to go right to the jugular. You need to get into it from that method and from that direction.
Why does he feel
so working
that's so
with
important?
the existing system and not bucking it?
When you say working within the existing system, what you're really saying is changing the existing system.
If you are fighting the government all the time, you can try change it that way, or you can try work with the government and change it that way. So yes, changing the system, but more from within rather than an external conflict.
Yeah, well, sure. I mean, anytime you're creating a conflict, that's going to create issues of its own. That's just the way that's going to work. It doesn't mean necessarily that you have to work with the government. I mean, that's an interesting claim that he's making, but I don't want to get into much of a debate about that. I just kind of caught my attention. But that's good, though. I'm glad that they're doing that. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Anne-Marie.
No, I was just going to say, it just kind of seems like a win-win to me. If it's going to help the planet, it's going to increase our nutrition and our food, which make people more healthy. Just seems
reduce
like
coronavirus symptoms.
Absolutely. It's cured by organic carrots. But no, it literally just seems like why wouldn't you invest into something
exactly.
like that? That's literally going to help the whole world. That's
the way they're coming in. It's a win all around. And they're not pushing too hard to get a massive change of this or that. So, yeah, I mean, the first thing they're just doing is raising the awareness. And so that's what the first section is all about. But as I say, there are a lot of videos, and like this book that I've just read. And I haven't read The Omnivore Dilemma. But it sounds interesting, Jeffrey.
Yeah. The Omnivore's Dilemma. Okay.
You see, all these books seem to be, at the moment, at least the ones I'm reading, I mean, of course, it's a law of attraction. They land up talking about soil, the vegetarian myth, soil. The soil book, of course, soil.
Oh, good.
There's a surprise. But I'm sure this omnivore dilemma is going to be related to soil again in some shape or form. Because, everything that we eat makes up our physical body, and it all comes from soil ultimately. So we're an accumulation of soil.
Anything by E.O. Wilson is good too, he says. E.O. Wilson.
I'll have a look at E.O. Wilson.
All right.
There's a lot of references in the vegetarian myth. I mean, a lot. She has that. She refers to study after study after study after study after study of people who have done studies on all these things. She doesn't make any of it up. She really puts it down very, very clearly. So anybody who wants to really research it can go in full depth. There's a whole lot of books she recommends, and she summarizes everything they say and puts it in an easy way to understand. But I've seen YouTube videos of her now. You can, just by looking at her body, you can see that pain in her body, but you can see the level of acceptance that she has with it as well. It's really quite clear in the YouTube videos. And I have to admire her for that, because I can feel that. I can see it.
Mm-hmm.
She's really harmed her body, but she's come to a better place, and she's learned to live with where she's at.
I remember the last time we spoke about her, you were reading her book. You had just read the first few parts where she was laying out all of the issues, and I'd asked you about the solutions, and you said, well, I hadn't gotten that far yet. I'm curious, have you gotten that far?
Yeah, the last chapter is all about solutions. So there's a lot about the different challenges. I mean, I didn't know there was a political vegetarian. There's a nutritional vegetarian. There is social vegetarian. I don't know. There's 3 or 4 different types of vegetarians that are very distinctly different. And I was like, what? I thought a vegetarian was a vegetarian.
I'm a vegetarian who's just never liked meat.
So do you have eggs and fish?
Yes. I don't have fish. I have eggs.
Yeah. Okay. So eggs is vegetarian. But as soon as you start going to vegan and start cutting that out as well, the body can start taking a huge amount of strain. She says nobody is a true vegan for more than 3 months, which is an interesting statement from a vegetarian.
I wonder how many vegans are going to take issue with that.
Take umbrage with that.
I'm not a vegan, so I don't know. But
she says that the vegans they already do hate her, but she was completely expecting it. What she's laid out in this book absolutely blows their belief structure to absolute pieces. And, she has, they hate her even more than a lot of the other people, because the other people have gone and say, oh, it's okay to eat meat and all the rest. And she says, no, I still think it's wrong the way that, they're put in small pens and the way they have to eat and the way they're slaughtered, etc. If you buy your organic stuff, that's okay. But, the general way these things are farmed is ridiculous and it's terrible. And she has not changed her opinion on that at all. And then, so she's still got one foot in the one camp and the other one, because she says vegetarianism is really a religion after a while. It's putting out your beliefs there very, very strongly. In many ways. And that was really interesting to the degree to which it is really, really passionate. And she said she was going on this one vegetarian farm and they had this course there. And she was just looking at all the health issues, all the different people there, and starting to see very, very clearly after a while how it affects the vegetarians and the vegans if they do it for any long term. But she says a lot of them cheat, and many of them have confessed to her that they've cheated along the way. She managed to maintain it for 20 years, but she destroyed
about 40.
her body on so many different levels. And she started explaining why, and it starts becoming very clear after a while how it's so complicated. You've got all these, what is the stuff they put on the field? So it's pesticides and
fertilizer.
That's the word I'm looking for. So the fertilizer, once that came out, and the pesticides, the combination of them, it increased the growth of food on this planet by about 200%.
Mm-hmm.
It's a massive jump, okay?
Oh, yeah.
So then she says to her, how do you get the nitrates and all the rest of it back into the soil? So if you're using fertilizer, what's that? Crushed rock. Crushed rock requires fossil fuels, traveling around the planet, carbon footprint, blah, 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 blah. But if you've got cows and you use their poo, then, you can just put it on the farms like they do all over the UK. Yeah, you go past any farm in the UK and it stinks of high heaven of poo. which is a healthy, good way of doing it instead of going and paying for fertilizer. So you now realize that you would not get this good stuff out of a cow unless it had so many rumens, so many stomachs. And it goes through the whole process to be able to take the cellulose or whatever it is from the grass and process it all through all these different rumens so that you can get the good fat, which is very, very healthy for you. You can get the meat, which is very good for you. You can get the poo, which is very good for you. The urine, which they put all over the fields in Austria. Very big at putting the cow urine all over the place there. So you've got this urine that you're putting in, you've got this poo you're putting in, and that's a natural way that it's been done on this planet forever. You know, when the bison were running around, they were pooing, and all the rest of it. And they were creating the part of that whole ecosystem, which was helping refeed the earth. And if you don't have cows and chickens and all the rest of it, then you don't get that cycle going on, and you don't get that nutrition, which is very, very important for a human. Now, a human's only got one stomach, where cows got many. So a human can't do what a cow can do, and it can't process the cellulose or whatever it is. Again, there's just so much.
Well, by the way, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Otherwise, human communities would smell just like cattle communities, and I mean, they just wouldn't be all that much fun to live in.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many factors to take in consideration. You got to ask yourself how many people should live on this planet based on the land mass and the availability of this, that, and the other. If in harmony, you know, what is the figure and how does it work? So there's so many questions you need to actually start asking yourself after a while, and they're not easy questions. Yeah, it's, as I say, it's very, very interesting. I've enjoyed many, many hours of starting to put the pieces of the puzzle together. But I'm not there yet, you know, but I'll get there. It's something new for me, and it's, that there's a lot going on, and the whole agricultural industry, you know, even if your policies in America, well, she explains them because she's from America. It's so interesting what they did and why they did it. The different rules and laws that they made for the agricultural community, and how they paid them when they had too much, and they paid them when there was too little. And they pay them in all different shapes and forms in different ways, and all the rest of it. And how those processes destroyed other aspects of the chain, etc. And it's really, really, really interesting.
And I'm quite aware, because of my own study of politics, particularly American politics, of all the different ways that the agricultural community has been bought off by the government on so many different things. So that's when I hear about somebody like this group coming in and saying, okay, we're going to go right to the core of it by working with the government. I say to myself, yeah, I know how that's worked out in the past. So there's a little bit of hesitation for me.
Well, the thing is, it's undeniable what is happening to the soil. It's not something that you can say like global warming, oh, maybe they're testing like this or like that, or, you know, the volcanoes are spewing out huge amounts of this gas, which is supposed to be bad in gargantuous proportions compared to what a cow does or whatever. And so you can go on and on and on. But when it comes to soil, it's very black and white. It's very easy to see how much it's been degraded and what incredibly short time frame, specifically taking into consideration how long the humans have been on this planet and how long this degradation's taken place. How quickly this degradation's taken place.
Well, even that, though, I mean, I'm not complaining about what they're trying to accomplish. Don't get me wrong. That's not what I'm saying at all. But the thought that just keeps occurring to me is I worked for years. I mean, I was kind of on the front lines, in a sense, of the whole political arena, trying to make change based on very rational approaches. And I learned the hard way that reason has absolutely nothing to do with what happens in government. I mean, there's
just 3 million people Join your group. 2 billion people.
Well, no, I didn't, because I was working on the rational. If I'd been working on the emotional, I probably would have gotten 3 million easy.
Yeah, there we go.
But I wasn't pushing emotional. I was pushing rational. So when I hear somebody say, "Well, it's just so obvious what's going on," I don't think obvious is going to have anything to do with it. What's really going to have to do with it is what's the emotional feeling going on. What's the emotional response going on? That's what's going to drive the thing. And the tricky part with emotional response is that it very rarely is rational, almost never. So I'm going to be curious to see how it plays out.
Yeah, no, me too. It's definitely, from what I can see in any shape or form, going to be the biggest movement that is focused on helping the whole planet that's ever existed. So
I'm also curious to know, is there going to be an alliance between the climate change people and the soil change people? Because there's a certain overlap there that could create a natural alliance.
Absolutely.
But there's also that could also create division, because they're going to be the anti-climate change people are going to say, well, if they're working with the soil people, I don't want to have anything to do with the soil people. So it can work either way. You know?
But that's the thing. There's so much focus, isn't there, on like climate and environment and stuff. So even if the government are just doing it to tick a box and be happy, it's a start. It's introducing this, isn't it?
You see, the thing about soil is it can solve all the other problems.
I get what you're saying.
Climate change.
I just know how the emotions work.
It can fix the nutritional content of our food, which will make us think and act and be clearer people, etc. Can remove a lot of our nutritional deficiency problems, which land up to be psychological largely. So, there's just by working on this one aspect, you can have a ripple effect through all the other areas on all different levels. And, all it requires is a bit of awareness of what's actually going on and how you can be part of the solution.
Well, they certainly have a chance along those lines, because, I understand the idea of trying to leverage something in order to make a significant change. I try to do the same thing by focusing on monetary systems. The difference is monetary system, that's a great way to put people to sleep. This one, you actually have a chance of people paying attention and wanting to do something. So it's got a better chance because of that. Yeah, monetary system, there's no better sedative. You want a sleeping potion? Talk about monetary policy. Boy, you'll put them to sleep fast. It works really well. Oh, my goodness. Well, this will be interesting to hear, because you're going to be kind of our point person going forward. I'm sure you're going to be keeping us informed.
Yeah, anybody else who's interested in soil and wants to contact me, I'm very happy to share any aspect of it. So if anybody listening to the podcast wants to know more about soil.
There's also a piece of me that says you're part of a group that's only 700. There are a lot of organizations that would crave a group of 700, and you're talking about 700.
Why I mentioned that is it's only in our area that's 700, and that's just teachers. So as I'm saying, this group is going to be massive on a scale that this world I don't think has seen before. And as I say, I don't believe many other people can do it besides the one individual that is running it. So it'll be really curious to see, because I have a lot of time for the clarity that's going on in the whole group. And it's so simple. And all the people that are helping are volunteers. Nobody's getting paid for it.
Interesting, too, that you just mentioned that the group is comprised of teachers, because that's actually a very effective.
No, they're training teachers. They're training me up to become.
Oh, they're training you to
be able to teach
teachers.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay, so it's a more diverse population. It's not all teachers.
No.
I gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, they're training you to be good at sharing the information. That's it.
Yeah, if they had a corner on public school teachers, that would be huge, because
they've got the divisions within the 700, just with our 700 group. And literally, I was on the podcast, the Zoom call. And you could see the number. It's black and white. You can see the exact number. It varied from 650 to 700 and 2 or something during the call. What was I going to say?
I was just thinking it would be an interesting subject to get on the curriculum.
Who's
that's just it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if you have teachers teaching it, it's going to end up on the curriculum one way or another.
Yeah.
It's just bound to.
So one thing that has been made quite clearly aware of here is the difference between an ecological disaster and a civic disaster. So if you've got plastic bags all over your town, that is more of a civic problem. Okay. It's not an ecological disaster problem. And people need to make sure they understand the difference between the two. This is one that affects everybody directly on the whole planet. Obviously varying slightly between country to country. I mean, something like Australia would be suffering more from this degradation of soil into sand, and America probably as well, versus, say, England. England has got green covering on almost everything. But again, they still do till here, as most definitely. So, reducing that as well. But this country is very green, has got a lot of water and all the rest of that. And it's a tiny country in comparison. It's like it's a drop in the ocean compared to, say, America. So, each country is going to be different. The way they're going to have to adjust and work within the different confines of the different countries is going to be slightly different. Not massively, but there will definitely be differences.
Well, I do hope they continue at least what appears to be a trend to focus more on solutions rather than on the devastation of the planet, because you can push the devastation.
Everybody has heard too much of that too often, and it's boring as anything.
Well, you can actually carry that for a while, but if you carry it too far, you'll actually turn people off from even listening anymore. That's my concern.
So you know what I did, Walt, and they're doing a lot of farms in America, specifically the grazing farms, is they're putting compost over the grass, grassland. So I did that in my back lawn.
Oh, did you?
And only did it once. So I took the whole top back lawn and I put compost and Blooming Amazing, which is kind of like a fertilizer that comes from some kind of grain, which is a byproduct, but it's really good stuff. It really helps things grow quickly and well. Possibly not brilliant because of the speed, but never mind. So I put the combination of these two on it, and we've got bird feeders and things like that. And I was watching, and I've never seen this in my life before. The birds were hopping around my lawn. Now the lawn is very spongy now. Where none of my other lawn, which I haven't done yet, is spongy at all. Not
very oxygenated.
It's become spongy, and all the birds are eating things off my lawn.
Sure.
Which I love. I'm just thinking, oh my gosh, I wish I'd done this before. I didn't realize that, you don't have to go out and buy a bird feed. You just have to put some compost on your soil, on your grass, So to me, I'm trying to get very hands-on involved and play with this. Every year I'm going to put more and more compost on just to increase, because as you increase the lawn and the quality of your soil, so it's going to suck more CO2 down. So I'm helping remove CO2 from the environment just by having better and better and better quality soil in my own garden. So I'm just trying to get as hands-on as I can.
That's always good, because the more that you try it, the more knowledgeable you're going to be getting then, rather than, nothing wrong with reading from a book, but it's not really the same thing as actually doing it. You can learn more when you do it. Yeah, that's a good thing. All right. Well, thank you for the update. This has been very interesting. I know that we're going to get more and more updates.
That was an hour already. Where did that go?
I know, it flies, right? And we didn't have a single sauna story. That's the part that's mind-blowing.
Well, that's because I've been quarantined.
Right. So we'll give you another 2 weeks to get out of quarantine, and then I'm sure we'll get the sauna stories again. And then we're going to be hearing the sauna stories where you tell people in the sauna about the soil, and that's where it's really interesting.
No, I've done that already. Yeah. Not so exciting. Not as exciting as
not so exciting.
Life, the Universe, and everything. No.
Oh, well, all right.
But
well,
as you say, I can see you glaze over as well. And a lot of people will. They, how terrible the planet is, blah, blah, blah. But, in the end of the day, I do believe I want to leave Isabel and Eloise, my daughters, slightly better planet, not a worse one when I leave. So,
Yeah.
if I want to do that, I got to do something, I could talk about it all day, or I can actually do something. So.
Mm-hmm. Very good. All right. Well, thank you guys very much. Thank you, podcast listeners everywhere. And we will see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.
Take care, everybody.